Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, fellow parishioners. My name is Greg McIntosh, and I would like to welcome you to the first of a three-part communication series to be held in our parish, the goal of which is to provide you with the best available information in three key areas as you look forward to the formal establishment of Holy Trinity Parish. There will be three presentations in the series. The first is being held tonight, and our presenter is Colleen Owen, Chair of our Pastoral Council. Colleen will present for about 45 minutes and will touch a number of important topics, following which she will take questions from you for about 20 minutes regarding the Pastoral Plan for Holy Trinity Parish. Next Friday at 7 p.m., there will be a presentation from the Chair of our Financial Council, David Nicholson, which will serve to update you on the financial state of Holy Trinity Pastoral Unit as we transition into being Holy Trinity Parish. 2 weeks from tonight, on November 15, Catherine Kidson, our Director of Operations and a member of our senior leadership team, will do a presentation based on a preliminary survey into our buildings and the infrastructure found therein. We appreciate that this is a very important topic for many of you. However, we must also remind you that this is a preliminary survey only, and much work remains to be done before any decisions can be made with respect to our buildings. This work will continue well into the new year. We will provide further information as we move through that process. Both the presentation and the question and answer session that follows will be recorded and will be available via internet for those who may be unable to be with us tonight, as well as for those who would wish to go back and review some of the information provided. Since we are recording this evening's proceedings, when the Q&A session begins, I will move throughout the church with a microphone so that the questions can be recorded along with Colleen's responses. The parameters for tonight's meeting are simple. Please listen carefully to Colleen's presentation, which will last for about 45 minutes, following which there will be about 20 minutes for the question and answer portion of the program. I will come to those people who wish to pose a question with the microphone so that all may hear the question, and both the question and answer will be recorded. We understand that this is a challenging time in our community. I'm sure that we can rely on each of you to pose and answer questions in a respectful manner, which is mindful of our common mission as brothers and sisters to build up the body of Christ, which is His church. As we begin, I ask you to join me in prayer for the successful union of this parish community. We will use the prayer given to us by our spiritual leader, Archbishop Mancini, in the context of the ongoing reorganization of our parish structures, which calls us to become new parishes stronger together. Okay. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. Father, mission. Courage and insight to take on the task of purification and renewal necessary. Standing required on pastoral conversion and the demands of truth. May your Holy Spirit release in us the gift of wisdom, necessary to make the choices. Learning, ministry, and worship, environments of healing, reconciliation, and care of the poor. Provide for us the clergy and leadership to guide this transformative journey of faith. We ask all this through us, Jesus Christ. And now I call upon the Chair of our Council, Colleen Owen, to share some important information with us. I'm sure you will give her your kind attention.
Hi, good evening. Wow, that's kind of loud. I tend to be a bit of a loud person anyhow. I've got a lot of energy tonight, and it has nothing to do with the 55 chocolate bars I ate last night at trick-or-treaters came to my door. I did have one young man come to my door, and he had names stuck all over his shirt. And I said, what are you? And he said, oh, I'm an identity theft. And I said, nice to meet you. My name's Lucy. No. Anyways, my name is Colleen Owen. I'm chair of your Pastoral Council, and I'm here to share with you a little bit about what we've been doing the past year and what our 3 to 5 year, kind of our plan for the next 5 years is as a pastoral, as a parish. So we have 3 nights, and then we're going to start with the Pastoral Plan tonight. And I just want to start by kind of reflecting on where this all originated back with the Archdiocese Action Plan. This is from the document Equipping the Saints that was put out over a year ago. That the action plan was to move from 65 existing parishes and 25 missions into 20 new parishes. So this Parishes Stronger Together plan first came out about a year ago, and they proposed the groupings for the new parishes, and originally our grouping was proposed with 4 communities. In January, the final plan came out, early January, and that was when we were told that we would be the 3 communities that we were already existing as a pastoral unit. We would move together forward to be Holy Trinity Parish. The Archbishop talked about the new structure for these parishes, and this is a quote from the from the Archdiocese Plan. He said that pastors will work with the clergy, the leadership team, the Pastoral Council, and the Finance Council in order to realize this new vision for the parish. So I just want to take a minute and tell you a little bit about what those 3 leadership structures are. The leadership team, this in our parish consists of Father Brian, Father Eve, Catherine Kidson, and Kate Pinto. And they are the team on the ground that make the day-to-day decisions. They're the operational group. They execute the parish plan, but they deal with everyday happenings in the parish. So they're kind of the action team on the ground. They are short-term. They think more in terms of 6 months to a year to 2 years, kind of like what's immediately on the agenda based on what the Pastoral Council gives them as a plan. So the Pastoral Council, that's more of a visioning body. That consists of Steve O'Quinn, Micheline Gomez, Greg McIntosh, Urban Cannon, Kim Pickup, Stephen McDonald. I feel like I'm missing someone. But the leadership team also sits with the Pastoral Council, okay? They're more concerned with the overall vision of the parish, the 5-year plan, the big topics, like where are we headed, what's our vision, what's our mission, and they don't get involved in the day-to-day workings at the parish. They more or less set the vision, hand that off to the leadership team, and the leadership team implements that in their day-to-day activities and decisions. We don't make those decisions on the ground. We don't decide, what's happening this week or next month. We just set the goals, and we expect that the leadership team will be guided by that and make the decisions that are appropriate to execute the plan. Okay? The difference between leadership team and the Pastoral Council, kind of what I described there. On the left, you'll see is the Pastoral Council. They're more of a visioning body in the long term, strategic and pastoral planning. And then the leadership team is, of course, more of a managing body, short-term vision kind of thing, operational, and project planning. So they do all the the day-to-day. As well, this is a little bit more comparing on the left, the Pastoral Council. They deal with broader issues. Who's in our neighborhood? How are we going to grow as a parish? What are our new opportunities and such? And on the right-hand side, the leadership team, again, keeps a shorter calendar, and they're more dealing with the operational aspects of the parish. We've done some things on the left side, as you see again, the ME25. That was that survey that we did in the pews, and we collect information about who's in our church. We also collect information about who's in our community. The activities of the leadership team more look at the results of what's happening, what's on the ground, transform lives day to day, meeting the budget, how to execute different things within that budget. Okay. The third body in the structure of the leadership is the Finance Council. And the Finance Council is led by Dave Nicholson, and he'll be here next week, and he'll introduce his team to you. As you expect, they deal with money and kind of the temporal resources, the spending, the revenue, the expenses, etc. They're guided by the Pastoral Plan as well. So they have the Pastoral Plan, and then their finances, they have to, when they're deciding on financial decisions, does it fit the Pastoral Plan? Is it directed towards mission? Okay, so that's how all three kind of come together. This is kind of a little visual I made. I'm a math teacher, so I love Venn diagrams. So this is a grouping of how these groups fit together. So basically, you see in the middle, that represents Father Brian, that guy with the glasses there. And he gets to be in every bubble. So he is sitting on the leadership team, which is also a subgroup of, the Pastoral Council. And he also sits on the Finance Council. So he sits on all three groups. You'll notice that there's one guy there with the calculator and glasses that's sitting between the Finance Council and the Pastoral Council. That's Stephen McDonald. And he sits both on the Pastoral Council and the Finance Council. We put that position in place so we know what's going on with the money, and the money knows what's going on with the plan. So we have a crossover position that exists there. Okay. The leadership team, as I mentioned, is this smaller group, and they also have to attend the Pastoral Council meetings so that they're always aware of what the vision is and what the plan is. So they're not executing blindly. They're always in connection with what the long-term vision is for our parish. And as you see, my notes just disappeared, so now I'm just, they came back. Lovely. All right. So as we work as Pastoral Council, we keep in mind what the Great Commission is. That's our goal as a parish. We have to do what the Lord is asking us to do, and that is to go and make disciples of all nations. Okay, so when we talk about putting together a pastoral plan, that's our focus. We do have to bring Jesus to people and bring people to Jesus. That's our goal. Okay. Now, just a quick explanation of how the Pastoral Council was formed. You may recall that about a year and a half ago, people, I know it's very small, I'll explain them to you. In the black bar, it says nominations were submitted. So about a year and a half ago, we were asked that anybody wanted to nominate anybody who would be interested on the Pastoral Council. That was open to everyone in the parish. Nomination forms were put out, and forms were turned in. And by this deadline, and then there was about 24 forms that were passed in of people who were nominated, or you could nominate yourself if you were interested in being on the Pastoral Council. Then we took, those nominees had to either have agreed to or be willing to do three things. That was have attended Alpha, have completed the Clifton Strengths. We wanted a balanced team, so we had to see where their strengths lie. And the third thing was to have read the Divine Renovation book. The Divine Renovation book sets a standard for these types of structures that are Archdiocese is falling, the leadership team, the Pastoral Council, that kind of thing. And moving forward in that, we just thought we should all be on an equal understanding. Then all the nominations, we were all gathered together for a discernment, and we spent some time before the Blessed Sacrament. And we also were told what the roles and responsibilities would be of the council. And then over a course of a few evenings, we answered questions, we spent time in prayer, and we were asked to discern whether we felt called to be part of the Pastoral Council. Over a few weeks, out of 24, 12 people discerned out of that process. And we were down to 12 people left who had still felt they were called to Pastoral Council. At that time, we took a look at what their strengths were. The leadership team, as well as the pastor, looked at the strengths of those who were left who still felt they were being called to Pastoral Council, and they chose 8 of them to form the Pastoral Council. And that's how the Pastoral Council was put together. All right. So the first year, I know these are small. I'm going to talk about them, and I'll blow them up for you as we go through. We did a lot of things in the last year and a half. And so I thought I'd highlight a few of them for you before we get into the plan, because some of these activities are how the plan was shaped. Okay? So the first thing was that we had to form the council. So there was some structures and kind of details around that. What would be our succession plan? What were some of our behavioral norms? What are the ways that you just set up the structure for council? All that stuff has to be in place when you're building a new body, a new team. Then we are, part of the role of the Pastoral Council is to cast and shape the vision and mission of the parish. So we spent some time on that. The vision is provided by the pastor's vision for the parish. So the pastor shared for like an hour and a half of what the church could look like. And I think if you recall, about a year and a half ago, Father Ken did share that vision of what the parish could be. Then we spent some time and we condensed that all down into a vision statement. Our mission, we looked at the mission, the Great Commission of making disciples, and then we kind of tailored it to how we felt we could do that in Lower Sackville. And then you might find these familiar, but these are our vision and mission: explosively alive in the Holy Spirit, strengthened in community, and transforming the world for Jesus. And of course, our mission, based very similar to the Great Commission, to make and equip disciples who would joyfully go and invite others to Jesus. We felt we were kind of joyful out here in Sackville, so we threw that in there. Okay. We also looked at the ME25 data, that survey that I mentioned that we did in the pews about 3 years ago, to see what people thought, what group of people do we have before us that are coming to Mass, what are their values, who are their friends, what do they do? I don't know if you remember all those questions we did a few years ago. We took that data. It was analyzed by the previous leadership team that we had, and we took all that data and we brought it to the council to kind of look at what we were doing as we start to build our plan. But we couldn't just look at the data that was within our walls, because part of our mission is to make disciples and reach everybody outside of our parish walls. So we thought, we'll take some time and we'll look at the Stats Canada data. So we took the Stats Canada data, the most recent data we had, and from all our boundaries of the 3 communities that we have, and we looked at things like age, employment, different things of Stats Canada would collect, income, those kinds of things. So with that data at hand, both the Stats Can data and the data from our own parishioners, we brought that forward when we started to analyze how we would carry out our mission. Okay? At the same time, last year, the Parish's Stronger Together plan came out, And we took some time when that first plan came out in November to see what that meant for our parish. At that time, as I had mentioned, we were slated to be 4 communities coming together. So we had to look at what that meant about, did it mean we have to start over with forming council, leadership team, etc.? And we kind of had some discussions around that. As it turned out, in January, we were given the 3 communities that we already had. So that meant that we had some things in place to already move forward in the Parish is Stronger Together, because we already had a finance council, we had our pastoral council, we had a leadership team, that all that was formed with our 3 communities already. So it kind of gave us a little jump start on this whole Parish is Stronger Together. We consulted the Archdiocese as well about the transition team, because documents came out about when you're transitioning a parish, what a transition team would look like. We had already been a pastoral unit. It made us a little bit different from the other parish groupings. That meant that some of the things we already had in place. So our focus would be more on constructing a buildings team that would kind of analyze the state of our buildings, working on getting our finances together as one, and also we had analyzed some of our real estate that we had in the parish. So it was a little bit different than other church groupings where they had to start from the beginning with building pastoral council, building a leadership team, etc. So then we constructed those transition teams, and Catherine will talk a little bit more about this when she gives her talk in 2 weeks on the buildings group and what their results were. And that all that information was presented back to the Pastoral Council so that when we construct our 5-year plan, we had all that information in mind. Okay. So then we went on to analyze what's called the 5 systems of the church. And I'm going to explain what those are in a moment. But the church has 5 systems, and we looked at the strengths of each of those, the things that were strong within our building, within our parish. And we looked at the weaknesses within those groupings. We looked at the opportunities, things outside of us that would be an opportunity to move upon, and the threats that would be things outside of the parish that would affect these groupings. From all that data and all that analysis, we started the construction of the 5-year plan that we worked on through the summer, and we presented to the leadership team in the fall. Okay. So those were all kind of the highlight of things that we worked on in the past year. I know you're anxious to get to what's going in the future, and so am I. These are the 5 systems that I mentioned. So we looked in the areas of community. We looked at community being relationship building, small groups, that kind of thing. We looked in the area of discipleship. Again, that's things like Bible studies and building learning and teaching kind of items. Ministry, we're pretty familiar with ministry. That those are your serving at Mass and different groups like care and companion and what is care and companionship, right? Those kind of different ministries that we have in the parish. We also looked at evangelization, and of course our main evangelization tool is Alpha. So, and worship being anytime we gather in praise of God, so Mass or perhaps Blessed Sacrament, sitting before the Blessed Sacrament, those kinds of things. All right. So that led us to our year 1 goals, and my phone has decided not to agree with me right now, so I'm just going to grab my paper copy, change that over. And so what we did was we took those 5 systems, and we looked at strengths and weaknesses in each of those, and we took 5 meetings, which ran about 3 months for us, And one night we just looked at discipleship, and we looked at all the strengths and weaknesses, and we listed everything possible we could think of as a council. And we came up with hundreds of different goals for each of these things. Based on those hundreds of goals, we took them all to an off-site meeting, and we had to decide what would best help us to carry out the mission and vision of the church. And then we condensed those down to 20 goals. So we can condense them. We took 4 in each category: 1 strength, 1 weakness, 1 opportunity, 1 threat, and we turned those into goals. We took those 20 goals and then we prioritized them on a timeline to say what is most pressing to carry out the vision in the next 1, 2, 3 years specifically. 4 and 5 may change because this plan gets revisited as you go through the year. Then in the spring, we'll look at the plan. How did we do? Do we need to refocus? Maybe some things might change, okay? So based on that, we came up with 4 goals for year 1. Now, when the goals are in year 1, that means they start in year 1. It'd be lovely if we could start and finish, check, 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 goals all done, but a lot of these goals will run several years, but we want to make sure that the focus in the first year. Our first one is an evangelization goal. This is, of course, we talked about Alpha. So we're going to invest in the running of Alpha as our primary evangelization tool. We have to improve the invitational culture. We have to get people inviting to Alpha. This is our opportunity to reach those that we know are in our parish boundaries, but they're not coming to church. So Alpha is a proven means of evangelization and bringing people into the church. So we said we need to make this a focus. We need to start growing. We need to stop shrinking, right? We need to bring some people in. The second goal, these are in no particular order as well. We just took the 4 goals that we thought were pressing for the first year. So it's not that they're going to do one and then the other, then the other, then the other. They're going to focus on all 4 goals throughout the first year. So the second goal is around community and, of course, creating that unified culture as a parish. This one aligns well with the Archdiocese of Parishes Stronger Together. The idea is to come together as one parish community. It started a lot of the transition team work that we've done. We'll continue to work with that. This is, as Greg was saying, a lot of things will unfold well into the new year, into 2020, so that we can make some decisions. But we do have to work together as one community around many things, including buildings, temporal affairs, and ministry, that kind of thing. So we'll continue to work on that. It is a priority that we are one parish, just as the Archdiocese hopes that each of these parish groupings come together to be a community. Another goal for year 1 is around community. We're hoping to build some time around the masses where people can stay and get some experience of community, spend time with each other, get to know each other, share lives, not just sitting at Mass beside each other, but having some opportunities to build community around the masses. And I realize there are a lot of things that are already happening at our parish around a lot of these goals. Like I know we have these breakfasts that happen and things around the Mass times and all other gatherings and dinners and things. And we want to kind of build into that. Okay. And the 4th goal that was put into the first year was around ministry. And this is where we want to invest in the ministries within our parish. And we had this recently constructed engagement team, and the engagement team is something we felt was integral to invest in our first year. So you may be wondering, what is the engagement team? And so when the engagement team was struck up last spring, Stephen McDonald was asked to chair that group. And so I'm going to ask him to just come up and share for a couple of minutes on what the engagement team is.
Thanks, Colleen. For those that don't know me, my name is Stephen McDonald, and my wife Tammy and I moved to Lower Sackville in 1991 and raised our family here, and we have worshipped in the Holy Trinity Pastoral Unit community since that time. Colleen told me I had 3 minutes to talk about engagement. For those that know me well, I can't even introduce myself in 3 minutes. But really a little bit, there's a whole backstory. I only have 3 minutes. I'll share it with somebody if they want to at some time, but about almost coming up on 2 years ago, in the dead of winter, that February, March time frame, our children are grown and out of the house, and I found myself with a whole lot of time and not doing anything with it. And that led to a lot of those dark winter evenings, watching a lot of TV. And there's a lot of trash on TV. And I'm a sports fan. And a lot of that trash is being forced to watch Maple Leaf games. So I had to get out of that cycle.
You're lucky Steve O'Quinn's out tonight.
So, and really about 6 months before that, Father Brian and Father Ken had come. And, you know, Tammy and I had really sort of wondered where we were going, what we were doing. And Father Ken, I remember, at one point challenged us as a community to move forward and get more involved. And so, despite the outward appearance of bravado, I had to screw up a little courage and make an appointment to go see Father Ken. And I went down and I said, "How can I help? What can I do? I've got some time." So we talked for a little bit. He said, "Thank you very much." He said, "Let me think about it. Let me reflect on it, talk to some people, and I'll get back to you." And he did. He called me back a couple weeks later and he asked me to come down. And he said, I've prayed about this, talked to some people. He said, "I'd like you to take on stewardship." And I said, "Okay." I said, "I don't know if I'm very good at fundraising." He said, "I didn't ask you to take on fundraising. I asked you to take on stewardship." So I went, "Okay, I guess I have to learn a little bit." So I understand, having been in the parish for 28 years, we had some stewardship activity in all 3 parishes a few years ago, but I wasn't involved. So I went away. I didn't say yes. I tried to do a little discernment, prayed about that. And so I felt called to say yes. So in going through the process, I decided to come down and spend a half a day a week, at the parish office here. And I started to work through what stewardship was. And anybody that's, heard the church talk about stewardship, will, you hear those 3 buzzwords: time, talent, and treasure. And I really felt after a period of time that I was being called to the time and talent portion of that, and not so much to the treasure part. The treasure is important, and we'll hear about treasure in the upcoming couple of weeks. But so I sat down with Father Ken, and it was really just around the time that Father Ken was leaving, and so Father Brian afterwards. And after a few meetings and some discernment, we all kind of agreed that that was a route to take. Let's develop a team, ask some people. And really, it's around engagement. And it's really my experience of, sitting around wondering what I could do. Was I doing enough? So instead of, it falls under the mantra of stewardship, but we've sort of called it engagement. So we developed a team, or I asked some people, and we're working through a process now to get a better understanding of how we can reach people. And when I say reach people, I'm talking about the people that come through our doors, whether they be new people that have an interest in the church, whether they be people that have had a relationship in the church before and are coming back to it, whether they've gone through Alpha, or whether they've been people like me that sit in the pews 1 hour every week and wonder if that's really what it's all about. On the other side of that, we decided to go and say, how do we match people up correctly? Because one of the problems that the church has in my past, and any volunteer group, is that I walk through the door and the first person I see is Colleen. I see, Colleen, I want to help out here. And Colleen says, wow, you just saved our lives. Stephen, we need somebody to bake 6 dozen croissants every Thursday night for the Little Sisters of the Poor meeting on Friday morning. If you talk to my wife, that is doomed to failure. But I've just walked through the door, so I'm not going to say no. That's going to lead to a whole lot of frustration because I can't even cook those Pillsbury ones. So, So really what our team is trying to develop right now is a process in which we say, we can go out to people, but if you come to us, we say, let's look at what your strengths are. What do you like to do? What gifts do you have? On the other side, this is what the parish needs. Here's all our ministries. Here's all our activities. And how do we plug people in so that people are happy doing what they're doing, engaged, and supporting the mission of the church? So I did agree they asked me to speak a little bit tonight about that because it is now a primary focus for Pastoral Council this year. So that's where we are. We haven't had a lot of publicity around ourselves yet. We're still in a bit of a formation process. You will hear from us sometime in the new year, maybe not right after the beginning of the year, but before too long. And in the meantime, I know as we work forward and you folks, and we all take some time to pray for our parish, I'd ask you to take a couple minutes in your charity and pray for our engagement team as well. Mm-hmm. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Awesome. So it's pretty exciting. That's a great focus, I think, for the coming year. A great way to get parishioners involved, connect people, have them working within their gifts. We're really excited about this as a council, and I think it's something we can really get excited about as a parish. So that is another main focus for the year, and I'm really thankful that Stephen came forward and is leading that group, and hopefully you'll hear lots of great things from them and maybe even get connected with them, and he's got lots of ideas, so it's going to be great. So thank you. So those are our 4 in the first year. Again, Alpha, communities coming together as one parish, and the engagement team. That's our main focus for the first year. The second year, we put in a few, again, from the 20, and the first goal around ministry. This is creating a clear process, kind of to what Stephen was talking about, like how do you get involved in a ministry? How do you participate in? How do you move through? How do you get out of a ministry? Some of us get into ministries and we're there for, 15, 20 years. So all these ways to focus on how to move in and through and out of ministry. Another goal is around worship. So we want to create a unified structure around the music ministry for our parish, some kind of coordinate some kind of structure for them so that there's a set process, etc. Another ministry goal is working with the Clifton Strengths. When Stephen had mentioned that the engagement team would be looking at where your strengths are, what you're good at, so that they could connect you to different things in the parish. Well, this may mean if we set it for a goal, by setting things as a goal in the pastoral plan, it means also that the Finance Council knows that that's somewhere we want to invest funds, right? So the Clifton Strengths is a tool that's used to find the different strengths of different people, and so hopefully by investing in that, we can better find a place where everyone can serve and really enjoy and serve what they're doing, what they're good at. And under evangelization, when we looked at the Stats Can data for our boundaries, we spent a whole night analyzing that data, and we were really pleased to see that in our communities, we actually have a booming population of young families. And so we really need to bring Jesus to these families, and we're doing a disservice if we don't reach out to them. We also would love to bring those families into the parish life together so that we can grow as a community and continue to grow. So we thought that, as a focus, we really want to make sure that we're reaching all people within our boundaries, and we could do a better job reaching the young families. So we want to make that part of the focus in our second year. Okay. Now, the year 1 and 2 goals are really probably the primary ones we'll be focused on. As we get to year 3, 4, and 5, these may change, because in 2 years, a lot can change. And so as we go through, some of these may be adjusted. But I clumped the 3, 4, and 5 years on one slide, and hopefully we get to them, but they may take a slight different form, because as things change, then the goals change. So in year 3, it's kind of, year 3 seems to be about development of people in our ministries. So in the music ministry, we're hoping to be able to develop our music ministry, be able to send them to conferences, workshops, help build into their ministry. Also to build into our leaders for Alpha, send them for training, development, etc., so that we can build into those leaders as well. And then another leadership building is leadership summits, where we build into the leaders of all the different ministries and leaders within our parish. So that year 3 is really building into the leaders. Hopefully year 1 and 2, we're connecting people, getting them connected to the parish, serving in the parish. Year 3, we start building into those, specifically. Year 4, we looked at worship and enhancing times for reflective prayer, promoting the Eucharist, and also providing a readiness model for our sacraments. Sometimes we get an influx in the sacramental years of families signing up for some of the catechetics and things, and we want to make sure that we don't just get this burst of people on sacrament years. We want them to be ready and moving through and be a continual part of our parish and growing. So that's a focus in year 4. And year 5, we'd like to build into a relationship with St. Benedict and Divine Renovation. It certainly is, they've tried a lot of things. There are things we can draw from, learn from them, things they can learn from us. Certainly, we've learned some things in the past, but we thought, let's build a relationship that we're both working towards the same vision of the church, to grow the church. So why not partner with and work with and learn some things from both Divine Renovation and St. Benedict, who are moving forward in that. Also, try and connect our young families to other avenues. We thought it'd be great if they weren't going to other places to find sports and community. Can we provide that at our parish? And of course, under discipleship and building and development, I know developing disciples, we've had this formed resource. It's an online resource that we promoted, I think, about a year ago. Some families are using it really well and really frequently, but it's an amazing resource, and we thought it'd be great to build into that and grow that. So those are the top 20 out of hundreds of goals. It doesn't mean that other goals get ignored or anything. These are just the focus. And the thing with setting goals is that if you make everything a priority, then nothing's a priority. So we have to select certain goals and make them priorities so that we can put a focus on that. I would love to address the 100 things we saw in the chart paper that we talked about as a council, but we really do have to have some kind of focus, and that's why we put together this pastoral plan. Now, of course, when the pastoral plan was put together, we said, well, sometimes it can be a little bit pie in the sky and like, wow, this sounds amazing, and it is amazing, but there are a lot of things that are going to have to be front and center as we go through, kind of hurdles that we might come across as we try and implement the plan. So we said, what are some of the critical success factors that we have to be aware of? So these aren't goals specifically, but they're things that, you might think, well, that's great, but make sure this is happening, make sure this is in place, or the goal will never get reached. So those critical success factors was addressing the priorities of the 3 communities while focusing on unifying priorities of a single parish. So we know we have to do this well, coming together as 3 communities. This is critical in our implementation of the plan. We know that, and we put that into our plan because it has to be something that we're aware of. We have to take into consideration that we are 3 communities, and we want to do this well together and bring all the wonderful strengths from each of those communities to become one parish. A communication plan. Of course, very key in any time you're transitioning is keeping everyone informed. Everybody, we're trying our best to get informed, but we know that a communication plan is going to be key to this. So it's not specifically a goal for a particular year, but it is an overall factor that has to be weaved through all of the goals, that things are communicated well. Norms and structures. So when you're dealing with ministries, putting new things in place as a parish, there has to be some kind of structure. It can't be, it has to have some organization to it, okay? So we want to make sure that while all these things are happening, they're in a very organized fashion. And there's procedures in place that if anyone in any aspect or any ministry or any part of the parish wants to implement something, that there is a process in place. Okay. The norms and structures, personnel, that leads to personnel. We need to, our leadership team is working really, really hard. On any given day, they're full out on the ground. We know that probably that team needs to grow by 1 or 2, just so that they're not run off their feet, and that we have a little more help there, as well as our staff. Our staff is fairly small, and so we know that has to grow as well. We put this in place because we also want the Finance Council to know that growing our personnel and at our parish is important to the Pastoral Council, so we want them to realize that we're hoping that funds will be allocated for that. So finance, of course, finance is kind of a hurdle in many things in life, and so we want to make sure that the Finance Council keeps the funds focused on the mission and the vision, okay? And so also that the Finance Council might work on the process of trying to raise givers, that in our parish we become a parish that just supports things because that's what we do. We support each other. Not that we have to always be, scrambling to get the funds to do the mission. Hopefully, this just becomes a regular focus for the Finance Council to always be promoting the vision and then encouraging people to give to that vision. We've been a real group of givers. I know I've been in this parish for 25 years, and it's always been one of the things I really love is that everybody has that giving heart here, and whether it's their time or their friendship or even financial support. I know as a family, we've always felt supported by our parish. So again, that's the whole pastoral plan with the critical success factors. I just always come back to the vision and the mission because that's what the council does. We're a visioning body. We always are focused on being alive in the Holy Spirit, strengthening community, and transforming the world for Jesus, and to make and equip disciples who joyfully go and invite others to Jesus. I found a couple of quotes that I liked. Christian disciples working together for the glory of God. And that's what it's about. It's the glory of God. We're not here to, there's a lot of goals, et cetera, but ultimately, this is God's work. This is God's church. And we get involved in these things because we want to glorify God. We want God to be center of this parish, center of this community, and center of our lives. And I just love Mother Teresa because sometimes when you're doing these things, you think, gosh, I don't know if I have what it takes to be involved in this or involved in that, but Mother Teresa says, I can do things you cannot, and you can do things I cannot, and together we can do great things. So thank you for listening, and we're going to head into a question period.